Hi, this is an instructional video to help you correct sitting posture problems after you sent me your sitting posture pictures. Thanks very much for sending them in. Firstly, one of the big problems, and we can see it on your picture, is that the chair has wheels on it. And one of the problems with a chair with wheels, you slip forward and you try and push it backwards and you can't get your bottom back into the chair, because we want you to get your bottom back so you have you can use the lumbar support. So what we would suggest that you do, and I'm not a great fan of these wheels. If you're on really thick carpet and it doesn't move, that's fine. But the other thing you can do if you slip out and it's hard to push back because the chair moves, is put tape. Just get some tape from work and put it around the wheels, so we lock the wheels, at least 2 of the wheels or 3 of the wheels. That way, when you slip, you can push yourself back. Because, again, the irony is that if I was setting you up, a chair like this, which is a fixed chair on the ground, works much better. Because if I slip down, I just push myself back, chair doesn't move, and I get much better posture. So the first thing is some tape around the wheels. The second thing is in a work, and look, even with a chair like this, even if you put a tape around the wheels, you can still turn the chair around. So it's not that you have to wheel backwards and forwards. Like even in this situation, you don't have to wheel across the frigging office. It's not that important. It's more about the fact that it allows you, when you slip down, to push back and the chair doesn't move. Now, with a towel, I like you to just get one of these little towels, roll it up. Even if I put a little towel in this position, and I'm working away, look at my posture. It's pretty decent. Even if I'm slumping, it's actually not bad. I take that out and much worse posture. So even a little towel just can be quite useful. Now, some would say, oh, let's get something to attach it onto the chair like this. Like this is a lumbar support attachment. But the problem is with something like that, if I put something here and I move forward, I can still slump because it sticks here. I quite like this because it forces me, A, to sit back in the chair, B, the sitting back and holding it in position. I find these much better. You leave it on the chair. Every time you sit down, you actually have to put it on position or put it onto the table, but it's probably better to put it in position. And then this produces a much better situation. Now, the other thing that we've seen when using, if you've got a laptop, just in case you do have a laptop in this position, often we'll see people working and they've got the laptop here, desktop, and the laptop is it's too low. So having to look down, look up, and we would oftentimes just advise one of these little stands, which are not expensive, $20, and you get something like this, and now we've actually got quite a good sort of setup with your desktop and your laptop. And in actual fact, what we should be looking at for both the desktop, this is a little bit too high for me. In actual fact, would be better to take that out in my situation. And that would be a much better sort of setup position. The eyes are pretty much the top of the screen. And in fact, we could probably turn that like so. So I've got one keyboard here, and then I could, now if you're going to use a laptop, get a stand, just get one of these separate keyboards, because in this sort of position I can be sort of like this, and other than having to go up here, which is again not good for the neck or the lower back, so we like you to have a separate keyboard, and then here you've then got a separate keyboard, and this way it's much more ergonomically sound in looking down and so forth. So, you know, a separate keyboard like this from SimLim or one of those sort of places, and these are, you get these for $20, stand $20-25. It can make a huge, in fact, Apple should probably make you buy these when you buy the computer, because I really do think it makes a huge difference. And obviously the top of the head is on the eye level of the top of the screen. And then, so the big take-home message is lock the wheels. If you do have a dining chair and you're working from home, I actually think they're better, to be honest, even a cheap chair like this, because they don't move and you've got good solid support. If you don't have a wheelie chair, put tape around it, a small roll, and then try and get this set up with the laptop. Now, from a standing posture position, if I'm standing in front of a standing desk, all I'm after is, when you look at the pictures, is to make sure your elbows are at 90 degrees. If your elbows are up in this position, it's too high. They need to be at 90. And then the screen, again, just needs to be at the same level as your eye. The top of the screen, the same level as the eye. It's as simple as that. The same's going to be in place for making sure that the laptop obviously is on a stand and you've got the separate keyboard. So it's the same principle, but standing desk, making sure that this sort of position of 90 degrees. And the other thing with a standing desk on the hard marble floors is a yoga mat underneath, or a cushion. It gets too heavy on your knees, ankles, and lower back if you're on a hard marble floor. So oftentimes a yoga mat underneath is also quite useful. And then the last point when we come to standing desks is that we know that the disc pressure in the discs in between, in the neck and the back, are at their highest when we look at data at about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So the disc pressure is much higher when we get up in the morning. And so we think that standing in the morning is exactly the best time to use the standing part of the desk. And that means when you get in the morning, have the desk up, work for the first hour or two standing, and then after an hour or two, you can put it down. And also in the morning, we're oftentimes doing emails and things like that. Do the standing first before you do the sitting. And that can make a huge difference to your neck and lower back problems. And really is the fundamental premise of better ergonomics in sitting and the work situation. Thanks very much.